So Elizabeth Gilbert was lived around mid-century. She became blind. She was blinded through scarlet fever at around age 3. Her father was I believe, the rector of Brasenose College. I think I'm getting his title right. So had a privileged life. Her family treated her situation after she became visually impaired in a very parallel way to their treatment of the rest of the children in the family. So in a sense, she was normalized in some ways, and yet in other ways, in her life narratives, her journal entries, and the writing about her, you can see ways in which when she becomes an adolescent and she starts to develop into womanhood, there are some really strict curtailments of her possibilities in ways that are extremely painful to her. And so she was a fascinating person for me to study and read about because of the really intensely and interestingly gendered aspects of her experience as a blind woman. And one example of this is her mobility issues. So she was very a rambunctious, physically active child with I think there's one wonderful story about her throwing a chair because she was angry about something as a child, and throwing a very physical temper tantrum. But she also, as a young woman, wanted to do her activist work. She wanted to be able to ride the train on her own and to travel freely on her own without some kind of a chaperone or an attendant. And her parents wouldn't let her do it. And I think this was apparently a source of great sorrow and frustration to her. And so that was a telling moment in the narratives of her life. Was a very close friend of Elizabeth Gilbert and wrote this interesting biography of her. But the biography, in a sense, as all biographies, in a sense handles the subject and reshapes in various ways the life that she's telling. And one of the ways in which Martin actually restricts Gilbert's life is by, in a sense, sacralizing her and infantilizing her in some ways. And the overall tone is very melancholy, even when it seems that the content doesn't necessarily demand that tone or dictate that tone. So in a sense, Martin can't see her beyond the cultural script of blindness to see what her friend's capacities actually are in an independent way. So it's a fascinating document.